I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk, where we ain't scared. My name is A1, and let me first say thanks to everybody that supports and checks out this podcast, that shares it. Please continue to do so. Very, very important. And we all have a lot of work to do to continue to fight for what we believe is right for our respective communities. So thank you. Also subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. If you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, I definitely appreciate you for that. Tell a friend, all right? And that mug, please go get your mug. Get your mug. We Ain't Scared Talk mug. They are very, very nice, solid, strong black. Strong black. That's how you know it's going to last forever, because not only is it black, but it's strong. All right? Hot drinks on deck. Also, as we are approaching, well, I think we just passed this holiday, this 4th of July, I hope that nobody celebrated that in the black community, because that had nothing to do with us, okay? So today's topic, okay, this is something that is nothing new in terms of the subject matter, but we're going to deal with it, and I'm going to give my 2 cents on reparations, and we're going to get into it. So let's go ahead, because I got a lot of notes as usual. But the title of this particular podcast is Reparations or No Conversations. Reparations are no conversations. And let me tell you what I mean by the no conversations aspect, and I'll get into a little more specifics. If we ain't talking about reparations, we ain't talking about nothing. Period. If we are not talking about reparations from 400 years of oppression and slavery, you and I have nothing to talk about. All right? So, let's go ahead and... All right, so a few weeks ago, as a lot of you know, a group of notable black professionals and celebrities testified on Capitol Hill. And this was about the need for black Americans to be granted reparations by the United States, again, based on slavery. And the U.S. government's practice of paying reparations to groups that it has attacked, enslaved, or put in internment camps. Now, some of this information, I'll admit, it's a little all over the place, because after I wrote it, other thoughts kind of hit me. But the Indians, Native Americans, they were given a form of reparations in the form of reservations, land, where, I mean, literally the local police cannot even enter or drive onto tribal land. And we all know that black folks were treated much worse than Native Americans, okay? And quickly, as I start this, let me just say, slave owners, okay, were given reparations when slavery ended by the U.S. government. There was basically, they received $300 per slave after emancipation, again, from the U.S. government. So if you had a plantation that had, 100 slaves, 50 to 100 slaves, at $300, you're looking at $30,000, okay, for that slave owner, okay? And in today's number, I'm certain that's well over $300,000 or more. All right, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. The slave owners got reparations, but the actual people, the slaves that needed it and were entitled to it, got nothing. All right, so here's some facts. Number one, we all know that chattel slavery lasted 250 years in America, followed by 100 years of terror, lynchings, and brutal treatment of black folks by racist white people. And Ta-Nehisi Coates again, going back to the Capitol Hill comment that I made earlier, did an excellent job, a beautiful job of stringing together the narrative of why the American government has to or needs to pay reparations. And now, let me just warn you, there's going to be some cursing because I'm really upset. And I'm tired as fuck of having to always qualify to non-black people why reparations are owed to black people. Non-black people know what time it is. They know what black people have suffered and sacrificed and endured in order for them to live a comfortable life in a country that was built on the backs of slave labor. This is not a secret. So don't give me that bullshit about, well, I wasn't there. Well, you weren't there when Henry Ford built the Model T either. But your ass still benefits from the current Model Fords. Right? Exactly. Non-black people conveniently play dumb to avoid being accountable and doing the right thing. And literally just cut the check to black people. Okay, I heard one number that estimated, well, it's $17 trillion. I don't give a damn. I posted something, I don't care if it's $100 trillion. Cut the friggin' check. I'm done with conversations about it. F you, pay me. And I don't give a damn about any other agenda, social cause, or policy from any other group. I don't care what ethnicity they are. I don't care because other groups, all stole and benefit from black people's pain and suffering. And they use it as a blueprint for their causes and never help fight for our causes. And proof of this is the silence. So let me just reiterate this again in case you missed it. I don't give a fuck about women's rights, gay, LGBTQP rights, immigration rights, kids in cages at the border, Democrat, Republican, animal rights, PETA, disabled rights, veterans' rights, or any other rights for anybody else until we get it right for black people. Okay, because those groups, they can be very vocal about what they need and what they want. But all of a sudden, when we need the support vocally from these groups publicly to support our goal of reparations, again, it is radio silence. There is nothing. You can hear a pin drop. Nothing at all. No, I said this and I'll keep saying it. I am at zero tolerance. I don't care what you're going through. Repair what's over 400 years old. Fix that first. Then we can talk about everybody else. Okay? Because again, nobody would be living as good as they are if it weren't for the involuntary sacrifice of black people. And this silent support is deafening. It is deafening. They ain't saying shit, but expect black folks to stand with them when they feel discriminated against, or when they feel like they're being left behind, or when they feel like their rights are being trampled on, or when they feel like something should be done to stop the oppression that is being perpetrated against them. That's exactly how we feel as black people. Slaves in America have created trillions of dollars in profit, not just to the United States, but to the global economy, based on free labor. And again, 14 trillion, 17 trillion, again, whatever trillion. And people want to act like they worked hard and built their financial success from scratch. Bullshit. We built this bitch from scratch. in the dirt, in the sun, with unimaginable brutality. The U.S. stole over 200 years of free labor to build every sector of business in this country. Okay? And let me just digress here for a minute. One of the senators on Capitol Hill, he was trying to appear sympathetic and understanding, and he made this comment. He said, "Yeah, we named a building after a former slave or a dead slave. Somehow that's going to make up, right? You named a building after a dead. That doesn't mean anything. We need money. And again, at this point, if you ain't helping me to fight to get my money, you can kiss my ass and keep it moving." And that goes for everybody, whether you are black or non-black. And black folks have got to stop being nice. And we have to start demanding what is rightfully ours. Stop being nice. That slave mentality, oh, well, I don't want, no. Demand. And for those black folks that don't want their reparations, which is completely idiotic, just because you've achieved some certain level of success, you think, well, I worked for it, and, I went out and I went to school. You are the exception. Stop glorifying the exception. Stop it. If you don't want your check, send it to me. I said that, and I will keep saying it. When the checks are cut, send your damn checks to me. I will gladly cash it and use it to help black people that deserve it. And you just go on kissing the white man's ass like you've been doing. Bunch of coons. Again, the slave owners got reparations when slavery was abolished. And again, why the hell didn't the slaves get it? Well, we know why. Racism. I get it, but I keep reiterating this because you're stepping around the people that are the rightful owners of this money. You understand? And then the other thing that irritates me, I don't want to hear about reparations in any other form. I don't want to hear about no damn educational form of reparation, housing, grants, military benefits, loans at a discount, or any other foolishness. I don't want to hear it. It's money. And I don't want to hear people, I've heard black people say, well, what does it matter if you get the money and you don't have financial literacy? Damn it, give me my money. Don't try to help me. Don't try to teach me financial literacy ahead of me getting my money. Give me my money. I will decide what I want to do with my money. You understand me? I will decide. And they really think that they're well-intentioned when they say these things, financial literacy. It sounds great. But the reality is, stop the stall tactics and the delay tactics. Give me my money. The U.S. stole the money plus interest. And that's how I want it back. The money, the cash, plus interest. This country has to experience the same financial pain in full that it caused innocent black folks. If this country broke the backs and bodies of Africans, then the United States deserves the same fate. Now remember this. In 2008, the United States went bankrupt. And that was because of some greedy Wall Street bankers. And within 2 weeks, the government moved heaven and earth and found $800 billion to bail out the banks, the auto industry, and Wall Street. Think about that. They found nearly $1 trillion in 2 weeks. So they can find it when they're properly motivated and quick. Well, it's time to bring that same friggin' energy and sense of urgency to reparations. Wherever they went to find that $800 billion is the same door they need to go to, knock that bitch down, and pay black people reparations. No exceptions, no excuses, no delay, don't pass go, don't collect $200, F you, pay me. Now we're going to get into some facts, okay? And we'll start with historical, the Holocaust, right? This is the closest analog to reparations for slavery and Jim Crow. And it's probably the reparations that West Germany, not probably, it's West Germany's attempt and agreement to pay the Jews after the Holocaust. Now, this was a major component of repairing the damage. Okay? They did $7 billion. This was in 2014 dollars. Okay? West Germany agreed to give to the then young state of Israel. They got $7 billion. And then we can go to apartheid. And this was in South Africa. Okay, so post-apartheid, as the article goes, Truth and Reconciliation. That was the name of their commission. Besides investigating human rights abuses committed by the apartheid government, was recommending reparations and other policies to redress those abuses and aid victims of the former regime. Now get this. The commission recommended about $360 million in reparations, and that was to be distributed in 6 annual payments to victims identified by this commission. But in 2003, President Thabo Mbeki announced that he would only authorize $85 billion of the $360 billion. Now, that was to be given in one-time payments of, it says here, about $3,900, above the average annual salary in the country at the time. Now, the recipients numbered about 16,000. That was as of 2012. So, yeah, it was a tiny fraction of the actual number of people victimized by the regime. But look, nothing is perfect, but at least they did something. And that's the whole point. I don't want to hear about, oh, it's just so, the number's so big, 14, 17. Do something. If somebody owes you $100 and they say, look, I only got 40, trust me, you're going to take that 40. And then they're going to get you the rest. You're not going to say, well, just don't pay me at all. All right, let me continue. The Japanese internment. Now, this is a lot of people will know about this one too. The forced internment of 120,000 Japanese Americans in camps during World War II, that was here on U.S. soil, resulted in about $3 billion in property loss and $6.4 billion in income loss. Again, this is in 2014 dollars. So if you account for the possibility that the money might have been invested and gotten above inflation returns, the economic losses are even greater. Now get this, Congress made 2 attempts at reparations. We can't even get one. But Congress made 2 attempts. The Japanese American Claims Act of 1948 and then the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. So, between 1948 and 1965, the former authorized payments totaling $38 million, which comes to somewhere between $286 to $374 million. Again, we're using 2014 numbers, which by now, 2019, it's increased, but which didn't come close to matching the loss. So get this, the latter offered survivors $20,000 each in reparations. So by 1998, 80,000 survivors had collected their share for a total payout of $1.6 billion. So you can do something. Okay, you can do something. And of course, there's no accounting by which either measure adequately repaid these internees for their economic losses. But again, they got something. Now let's go to forced sterilization. I'm establishing a pattern here by the U.S. government. So most Americans state that the practice of or form of eugenics, okay, which is controlled breeding, okay, during the 20th century, with forced sterilization of unfit people being a prime instrument. So they made a decision that certain black people, poor people, were unfit. So what they did, they targeted mentally or developmentally disabled poor black women on welfare, which were especially easy targets. And the United States Supreme Court gave this practice a green light. And this is in the 1927 Buck versus Bell case. And eventually 33 states adopted this practice of sterilization. Forcibly, I might add. And 65,000 people through the 1970s were negatively affected. Oregon forcibly sterilized people as late as 1981. 1981. And its Board of Eugenics, and of course they had to rename it to the Board of Social Protection, which is bullshit, which was eventually abolished in 1983. Man. All right, now let's go to the Tuskegee experiment. Now that's real. A lot of people know about that. After the end of the Tuskegee experiment, in which 399 black men, 400 black men with syphilis, were left untreated. And why? So the government could study the progression of the disease between 1932 and 72, 40 years. So we're basically human lab rats. The government ultimately reached a $10 million out-of-court settlement with the victims and their families in 1974, which included both monetary reparations, okay, again, 2014 numbers here. There's $178,000 for the men in the study who had syphilis, $72,000 for their heirs, and $77,000 for those in the control group, and $24,000 for their heirs of those in the control group. So again, these numbers are here. They are real. There is a practice, okay? And then they said something about, oh, we'll also make sure you have lifelong medical treatment for both participants. This is from the CDC, okay? Center for Disease Control. All right, let's keep going here. Rosewood. Wow. This was in 1923. The primarily black town of Rosewood on the Gulf Coast of Florida was destroyed in a race riot that, by official accounts, killed at least 6 black residents and 2 whites, and I'm sure it was more. And a lot of this, and this is what's disturbing, the reason why that number sounds low to me, and it is because many of these black men and women were killed and dumped in mass graves. Sickening. So in 1994, the state of Florida agreed to a reparations package worth around $3.36 million, of which $2.4 million today will be set aside to compensate the 11 or so remaining survivors of the incident. $800,000 to compensate those who were forced to flee the town, and $160,000 would go to college scholarships, primarily aimed at descendants. And again, I don't want a college scholarship. I want the money. Now, keep in mind, Rosewood, don't confuse this with Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. Okay, that was in June of 1921, where white hate turned into a massacre of black people. An entire city, black city, was destroyed from the air. Gas bombs, murdered on the ground. That has still not been atoned for. And it was all based on a lie. White woman in an elevator said a black man raped her in an elevator. Sickening. Now, those are just a few examples, okay? And it's not exhaustive, unfortunately. There are over 12 to 15 instances where white hate overran a black town in America because they were jealous. They were hateful. And again, this conversation, this topic, this is not up for discussion. It's not up for debate. It's reparations or no conversations at all. We are demanding these reparations. We're demanding them. And I think Colin Powell said it best before the U.S. invaded Iraq. He called it the Pottery Barn effect, which is you break it, you buy it. America broke it. They broke the African American spirit, lives, destroyed it. And now you need to buy it. You need to own it. Pay up. America engaged in human trafficking and slavery for over 250 years. It's time. It's time to make it right. Pay up. And again, I don't give a fuck where you find the money. Run those pockets and cut the check. Zero tolerance. No talking. I don't want to hear about, again, any other group. I don't care. Figure it out the same way we had to figure it out. Well, I'm sure you got your own thoughts. And as usual, I encourage you to continue this discussion. It is important. And the one thing that I will say to add to this, black people, stop chastising black people about financial literacy. Stop saying, you guys, well, if you get the money, what are you going to do? Don't worry about that. If we feel like we want some input and advice about financial literacy, we will come to you. We will come to you for that information. Cut the check. Give us the money. Well, I know that this is not an easy topic, but guess what? We didn't cause it. We didn't do this to ourselves as black people. America did. So fix it. And I encourage you to continue the discussion. Keep it going. So, I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is A1, and you got some good food for thought. Listen again. Tell a friend. We ain't scared.